Hello, everybody, and welcome to BadgerBeat as we break down the Badgers' season-opening victory over UNLV and look ahead to Oregon State. I'm Rob Hernandez alongside Tom Oates and Tom Mulhern. And Oatesy, let's start with you first. A lot of hype surrounding Russell Wilson and the Badgers' new-look offense, but it was pretty much the same old look and a pretty effective one at that.
Yeah, I think the running backs in many ways stole the show. That nationally they were talking about Russell Wilson, but to see the improvement that players like Monty Ball and James White and even Brady Ewing in a passing game, all of a sudden they were the running backs are always the engine that makes the Wisconsin offense go, but to see the improvement and kind of the breakaway ability and stuff, to me, added a new dimension to the offense. I thought they were both terrific.
And Mully, a lot of people came away from that game talking about how crisp the offense was. Obviously, 51-17, you're going to do some things well on offense, but did they do it well enough in the season opener to say this might be better than expected?
Well, it certainly was if you compare it to a year ago when it took them most of the non-conference season to get going, and 7 touchdowns and 8 possessions, plus a field goal scored in every possession when the number ones were out there. Russell Wilson only faced 2 third downs, which tells you something about their efficiency. But I agree with the running backs. I think it started with them. I think they set the tone early. And the running backs as receivers, too. How many times do you get 3 40-plus yard pass plays from your running backs basically on screens or checkdowns? So it's a new weapon this year. And, I thought this offense would have a hard time replacing all the weapons that departed from last year. But from a start, at least, it looks like they've done it.
Russell Wilson's going to really enjoy playing in this offense, too, with the running game setting the tone behind a great offensive line again. And being able to play action pass, and the bootlegs were so clean. When he got outside the pocket, there was nobody out there because they were inside concerned about the run, and he had some wide open spaces to operate in. I think he's really going to love operating in what's a run-first offense.
Well, but even in the passing game, so many guys stepped up. I mean, you had running backs catching the ball, you had tight ends catching the ball, a couple were overshot. And then the wide receivers come into the conversation. That was something that really, I think, was a question mark coming in here.
Yeah, and I think from that perspective, it was good to see Nick Toon get involved with one really nice catch where he showed his, the trust already that Russell Wilson has in him. Threw the ball up, Toon got interfered with, made a great catch on the defender. So, yeah, if you're Russell Wilson, you go through a game without really being touched by a defensive player, I think you got to like that.
Well, that's a look at the offensive side of the ball, guys. Defensively, if there was any negative, it might have been and Brett Bielema addressed this afterwards, the penalties on defense and the sloppy tackling largely in the secondary. Mully, how much of that is true, and how much of that is just trying to find something that you have to kind of hang your breakdown, your film breakdown on going into week 2?
Yeah, it was 37-3 at halftime. 2 of the touchdowns came in the second half of a blowout game, so I think you have to temper it a little bit. I think he's right. The tackling wasn't crisp, but it was the same way in preseason camp, this first scrimmage. Things weren't very crisp, and it's similar to that in a first game. So, one of the positives is Antonio Finellis at cornerback. He got called for one, poor call on a pass interference penalty, but I thought he looked really solid, and that's a big question mark I had going in against some good wide receivers, and I think that was answered.
Well, and Oatsy, the last year's calling card of the defense was its playmakers. Did we find any playmakers in week 1?
I don't think necessarily we found too many playmakers out there in week 1. To me, the defense really, they got thrown off by something they didn't expect. And if you look at the first half of that game, they gave up a lot of yards and some long drives, which kept the ball out of the hands of their offense. And I think it was a matter of first being confused, and there was poor tackling, but there's often a reason for poor tackling. You're out of position. You're a step late. I thought there was definitely some hesitancy on the part of the defense, and they gave up some yards on the perimeter. I expect that to be corrected this week very quickly, because I think there were things there that were very teachable moments for a coaching staff and for players that they did wrong that they can do better. And mostly it related to, I think they were just a step slow for a variety of reasons.
Well, this week brings us to our first Saturday game of the season, 11 a.m. kickoff, the Badgers against Oregon State. And Mully, I know the Wall Street Journal came out this week and kind of lambasted the Badgers' soft schedule, in non-conference play, and it doesn't gain any. It's Oregon State coming off a loss to Sacramento State, a football championship subdivision team. how does that help the Badgers get better, and what do we look for out of the Beavers?
Well, unfortunately, when they scheduled this game, this was a game that got fans excited because it's from a good team from an established conference. And so you would have thought this would have been their biggest test of the preseason. I don't think anybody going into that game last week saw them losing to an FCS team. But they've got some issues. They've got injuries. They've got a quarterback controversy brewing right now. Their most dynamic player, James Rogers, a wide receiver, is not back from injury yet. I think they'll be. I think they have a chance to get it straightened out. I still think Mike Riley's a really good coach. I think they tend to overachieve. But it just, they were slow getting out of the blocks, and I think everybody's a little surprised by last week.
So let's see, if you're the Badgers, what's the biggest red flag out of this game in terms of whether personnel for Oregon State or just things that you have to shore up this week if you're the Badgers?
Well, first of all, you never have to apologize for scheduling an Oregon State. It's a very good, traditionally a very good, solid Pac-10 team. And if you're the Badgers and you're looking at this game, you're figuring that that's a team with some quality personnel that is stung by a really bad loss, and that they're going to come in here all geeked up. I think Mully touched on it, the quarterback situation. I mean, Ryan Katz is a junior, and he was all over the NFL scouts' radar screens, and he gets benched in the opener. I don't even know that there's a quarterback controversy. I think you have to go back to this kid, and he's a talent, and see if he can rebound with a much better performance.
And that's Badger Beat for this week as we look forward to the Oregon State game. Don't forget to join us Saturday for our live blog from Camp Randall, as well as complete post-game coverage, including interviews with the players and more on madison.com. For Tom Oates and Tom Mulhern, I'm Rob Hernandez. We'll see you next week.